Welcome to the first ever Arena Sealed League set evaluation. I'm SpaghettiMitch, part of the Arena Sealed League from Montreal, Quebec.
And I'm Bill D, currently in Buffalo, New York, recently out of Chicago.
And we're just going to do a series of videos here looking over the newest set for Magic the Gathering with an emphasis on the cards and their use in Limited. And more specifically, when we need to say something more detailed about our Sealed League in specific. Do you want to tell them how the Sealed League works in brief?
Yeah, so the Sealed League is a 6-week set of games of kind of super sealed. So starting out in normal sealed pool, 6 sealed packs generated online on Discord with kind of a full like an actual pack, an actual draft pack generator bot, and then you make a 60 card deck. You play up to 5 games a week, trying to hit 30 matches, eliminations at 11 matches. Every match you lose is you can open up a new pack of anything in standard. So you can kind of build your deck in certain directions as the league goes on.
And as we go through the cards, we're going to start with multicolor, then followed in Wooberg order, and within those colors, we're going to start with the lowest CMC commons up to the highest CMC commons, and then the same thing for uncommons, rares, and mythics. And just for a little outline of what our grading scale looks like, it's on the screen for you, but I'll just give it a quick read through. So A plus, A, and A minus, so the A range, absolute bombs, and the top cards unlimited. Game-winning card if unanswered and helpful even when unanswered. The B range would be happy to play as many of these as you can in your deck. There are cards that are typically pulling you towards their colors and their archetypes when you're drafting or building a seal deck. C range is the most frequent range of cards that you're going to be playing with. They define your deck, and they typically work best if you can find synergy to help maximize their power. D range are cards you should be reluctant to play, but you can expect to see a bunch of them that make the cut once in a while. The F range, mostly for constructed, and you're advised not to play them, but if you want to be funny, you can try to make them work. And a lot of us have tried to do that in the past. So we're going to start.
Some cards could get to be kind of good in a sideboard or against certain matchups. Some cards also might get like jump in letter grades if you have a rare from a different set or open up some other cards that wouldn't typically in the Vow set make them good.
Yeah, so we have a kind of a side grade for, just like a lot of set reviewers, we've got a side grade for sideboard or build around cards that are only going to be better in your deck if you can build around them. So starting with the 10 mythic the mythic, not mythic at all. The multicolored signpost cards. They're all uncommons. We got 10 of them in this set. Sometimes there's more, but we have the bare minimum 10 signpost uncommons. And the first one we have here is Brine Comer, which is an Azorius card, so a blue-white card. And it costs 3 mana, blue-white and 1 colorless mana. So what it does, when Brine Comer enters the battlefield or becomes the target of an aura spell, create a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying. And it's got Disturb, so we get to see what Disturb does, and I'll flip the card around for you. So this is the back of the card. Brine Bound Gift. Enchant creature. Whenever Brine Bound Gift enters the battlefield or enchanted creature becomes the target of an aura spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. And all the Disturb cards' backsides are enchant creatures in this set. They have this text at the bottom, which is if it's going to be put into graveyard, you exile it instead. So what do you think about that to start
with? So I think Disturbed is a really good mechanic. It played out really strongly in Vow. I think that'll also bear the case here. Although with enchantments, you kind of stack things instead of spread them out like a disturbed creature would. Brine Comer gives you like a 2/2 across 2 creatures, one of them flying, pretty good rate for 3, and then you immediately start getting them back. If you can, you're eventually going to get another 1/1 as long as you don't get graveyard hosed, which is something I'd definitely get in for. And if you have a lot of disturb, this obviously goes nuts.
One thing I noticed about the backsides, the enchantments of all these, because I've had a good look at the set. A lot of them don't actually do what enchantments normally do in Magic, which is buff stats. A couple of them do, maybe only one gives flying in 1/1 or something, but almost all of them give some effect to the card. So it's not your typical enchantment. It just kind of makes the creature good in other ways. This one,
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like usually they keep the spirit of whatever creature it was on the first hand, no pun intended. And
good flavor.
you sort of like add that to the second thing you cast it on.
It's good flavor that it comes back and kind of haunts the battlefield with the way the spirit haunted the battlefield when it was alive. So
Yeah, and I think
yeah,
and any same thing is true if it gets bounced or removed or some otherwise put back to your hand, you can cast the creature again.
Yeah, that happened a lot in the Night Hunt. Sorry, I wouldn't say it happened a lot, but you didn't feel too bad. You got a little. If the backside of your creature is on the board and it got bounced to your hand, you're happy to play the front side of it again. What do we think about this card in general, power level, if we're going to grade it?
I think probably in the B range. It's not going to take too much work to be good. I don't, there might be some bombs or straight removal that get higher than that, but I think at least a B minus, trending towards a B is what I would say.
So you get a 1/1 on the ground and a 1/1 in the air right away, and you want to target this with spells, an aura spell in specific, for it to do more than that on the front side. And then you got the backside, which does the same thing. I was thinking B minus, C plus range. It's nothing that's gonna be like winning the game or anything, but the issue is, yeah, to maximize it, you're gonna have to do the same thing, which is constantly target this, which is usually a recipe for getting blown out, especially when they know you want to target this, if you're holding up instant removal or bounce, something like that. I'm thinking trending towards C plus more. It's not one of the stronger disturb cards from what I can tell, but
I think I agree with that. I would say trending towards, I think probably B minus. I think it's probably going to be pretty easy to build around it. So I would say B minus, trending towards C plus. I kind of agree with you. You're sort of stacking, and that can always be risky.
They see it coming. I know I'm holding up an instant so that they don't get extra health. But the payoff is a 1/1 flyer. It's not end of the world if they do get an aura on
yeah, it is pretty easy to hold up removal for it.
I think I'd say C plus. So we actually have a spreadsheet that we're going to share it with our Discord. Actually, you can enter both of our ratings on the spreadsheet for us here.
I will.
So I'm going to give it a C plus.
All right, sounds good.
As you do that, I'll move on to the next card here.
Like the multicolor is like really multicolored.
Oh yeah, I did a good job. You'll see if you check out the spreadsheet. So it's our Demise Signpost uncommon. Demise is black and blue, so this costs actually only 1 black, 1 blue, and it's a 2/2. It shows the Demise mechanic, which is exploits, the Demise mechanic for this set. An exploit is when this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature, and this Skull Scab, I didn't read the name of the card, but it's called Skull Scab. Whenever a creature you control exploits a non-token creature, create a 2/2 black zombie. So that zombie is a token, so you can't go infinite and keep exploiting the zombie. And one thing about this card is it kind of pays you off for exploiting with other creatures too. A lot of the exploit creatures will say get something when you exploit, but this actually cares about other things exploiting too. So that's one reason the Signpost uncommon, it helps that deck in general. So what do you think about this card?
Yeah, it's kind of like the it's an exploit. It does enable it a little bit if you have something else, but it really is, the payoff is it's an enabler for other exploit creatures to really start getting value along with it. It is non-tokens, so you don't get much if you exploit itself to itself. That's not an upgrade at all.
That's one thing you could do with exploit actually, is just use it on itself. There's a couple of cards where that could be a viable option in the future.
So the floor being a 2-mana 2/2 that's harder to cast, not awesome. So you really need some help, but if you have that help, this thing could be really good.
The best thing this could do is pump out 2/2s like for free. If you got the deck for this with exploit. Yeah, since the floor is a 2-mana 2/2 that's hard to cast, not too great on the floor. But yeah, you do get value out of these 2/2 black zombies, and remember they can block in this set. The zombies are not 2/2 decayed in this set like we're used to in Midnight Hunt. So I'm talking about a grading here. I don't think it reaches the B level. Sorry, if it reaches the B level, I would say B minus.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's getting to B minus. I do think that in the exploit decks, which I think are going to be probably strong, that it's something that you're actively going to want, and it's going to really be good.
I'm unhappy that you can't exploit it's only non-tokens, because we so just to be in that, but that would be too strong.
Yeah, but imagine if you get 2 of these on the board and you exploit something and like a Doom Dissenter or something, it just starts peeling out. I think this is also going to be good.
You're not going to see this actually in decks that aren't doing exploit stuff. No one's going to be going for a hard to cast 2/2.
Yeah, and I think this might be one of our first cards that's really good when you pair it with mid or something else. Like if you're getting punishment pack and you just have a lot of like disturbed creatures, like this into a bait hook angler.
Yeah, we should actually talk about how that works in our league a little bit, because you're allowed, when you take a loss, as you said before, you're allowed to take a pack from any of the standard sets. And for the first time in our online sealed league, we kind of have a block per se.
Yeah, mini block.
And that hasn't happened since Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan, which is when I started playing Magic in Rivals of Ixalan. So it's the first time we're seeing a kind of mini block here, and they designed it so that cards from Midnight Hunt synergize with cards from this set. Although those Decayed Zombies, you want to exploit them, but it's not going to work with this guy. But you can definitely exploit those Decayed Zombies if you happen to open Midnight Hunt in this VOW sealed league with other exploit cards, which we'll see in the future. So I think I'm going to give this B minus.
C minus?
B minus.
B minus.
Bumblebee.
Yeah. I am agreeing with you there.
Okay. No fight so far. A lot of cards are straightforward, but a lot of cards just are not straightforward. So you want to read this one?
Yeah, and I think the uncommons are generally try to make them pretty good, so that people will be like, oh, excited about color pairs. So usually the signpost uncommons pretty much are strong.
Yeah.
For those new to draft or sealed. So Blood Tithe Harvester, it is a black and a red for a 3/2 vampire creature at uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you create a blood token, and blood is one of the black-red mechanic. It is blood tokens are artifact tokens. You can pay 1 mana, discard a card, and sacrifice it to draw a card. So you get to rummage. So you discard first, then draw, instead of the other way around. What the harvester does is you can tap it, sack it, and target creature gets -X/-X, where X is twice the amount of blood tokens you control, and activate only as a sorcery. So pretty good stats for 2 mana, and then you can always, if it gets blanked, pop something in the air. If you have a lot of blood tokens, trade it for something bigger.
We're gonna see more than I can remember in a long time. We're gonna see this blood token mechanic over and over and over on cards in this set. There's so many of them that create these blood tokens. Not the strongest thing in the world, but it's really good for consistency. Not looting, but it's rummaging. It helps with the mana screw and the blood consistency part of the deck.
Yeah,
I think
I
white
think
has
there's
a
a lot.
couple cards that do this, if I remember. It's like kind of a third vampire color, but mostly black-red.
Yeah, I think, and especially starting off in sealed league, that if you have like the blood tokens, and you might not have enough cards to play 2 colors, but you have a lot of blood tokens, you can just cycle off the cards you can't cast and try to find cards that you can cast, which
You
may
could
be.
probably get away with playing fewer lands when you've got a lot of ways to make this. If you don't have lands, you pitch no lands, and vice versa. It's gonna make decks stronger in general to have a lot of these running around. So that might be a pull towards black-red in our league.
Yeah, I think so. And I think sealed more than draft, you probably like stuff like this. Because in a draft that's black, red, and aggro, you probably are just going to be, you know, aggro, aggro, aggro until you eventually start pitching lands to this, to the blood tokens you have laying around. But um, yeah, I think it's going to be strong and sealed. This guy
Yeah.
also doesn't destroy the blood tokens, so you can just use it as a removal spell, and then still have the blood tokens around. A
Oh,
lot
I
of the
assumed it
main.
did, but yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, you just keep the blood tokens, and this thing kills it.
Very sadly, though, it has to die. Your 3/2 has to die to do that thing. But it's not the
Yeah,
worst thing in the world when they got a dangerous creature. It can basically trade for it for no other cost. Not the strongest or the weakest card, but it's a good way to use blood tokens, which I think is going to be important because they're so common. As I said, there's only a handful of cards that actually use blood tokens in direct good ways. This is one of them. Obviously, there's some stuff that has discard synergy, and that's a rummage a payoff for having blood tokens too. Power level wise, what are we grading this?
I think that its floor is really good. You get a blood token plus a 3/2 for 2 mana, and I think that probably brings it up to at least a B minus, just if you had no other text.
Yeah, all three of them so far are I'm teetering between C plus and B minus for all three of these so far. I think I would give it B minus. The fact that it could remove a big creature with not much help on its own, like they have a 6/6, you just happen to have 3 blood tokens going around. I'm gonna say my 3/2's dead, your 6/6. Although there's not too many 6/6s these days in Magic. They've been very good when they have been printed recently, but I mean 5/5 or 6/6 dice if you just have 3 of these on the board. Only at sorcery.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see a situation in which this is coming down and not helping you out in some way. Whether you get something to rummage with, whether you like are losing to a flyer that you need to kill or something, um, or you just need another creature.
Okay, so I think I'm on B minus. I think I gave 2 B minuses and C plus so far. They're all in the same range.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's set our next card here. We have the Gruul Signpost uncommon, and
Yeah,
it's the Child of the Pack. You want to read it?
Yeah, Child of the Pack is 2 red and a green for a 2/5 human werewolf. It's not a wall; it's just a creature. But it has the text: you create a 2/2 green wolf token for 2 and a red and a green mana. So for 4 mana, red and green total, you can just create wolf tokens at instant speed, which is pretty sweet. It has a backside. It transforms into the Savage Packmate, and this Savage monster has trample. It's a 5/5, and gives every other creature you control +1/+0.
Every other creature. It's not even just wolves. It's a little surprising, but it's good. It synergizes with the fact that it pumps out wolves, I guess, and also
Yeah,
synergizes. Well, we didn't mention what Nightbound and Daybound is, but I'll say that quickly here because actually we saw that in the last set, Midnight Hunt, where Werewolves was the superstar apparently, but a lot of people don't think they had the best deck. But anyway, we can talk about that later. Daybound is if a player casts no spells during their turn, once a Daybound card has been played or Night and Day has started, it's going to transform to nighttime at the end of that, but at the start of the next player's turn. And if it is nighttime, once a player plays 2 spells on their turn, it's going to transform back into daytime at the start of the next turn. So yeah, this cycle only starts if a day-bound card hits the field, or another card that specifically says it is daytime. We had some of those in the last set, but we don't have anything that starts day-night cycle besides from these day-bound, night-bound cards in this set. Although we do have double-face cards that aren't Werewolf. So let me see here. So you pay 4 mana to get 2/5. Not the worst card in the world. I want something more, obviously. You pay the casting cost again, exactly, and you get a wolf. The backside, 5/5 trample. This is a theme that I'm seeing a lot in Gruul for this set. You really want it to be nighttime when these cards hit the battlefield. And the bad thing for Werewolves is it's a whole lot harder to start the day-night cycle in this set. There's only these night-bound, day-bound cards that do that. And Boros' theme actually in the last set was night-bound, day-bound. Can get started with the Boros cards. There's none of that this set. At least now we know how night-bound, day-bound is going to play out because we're like used to how it works. This card's nothing too special, I think. It's great if you have 1,000,000 mana and a lot of time to pump out those wolves. I'm skeptical. I mean, turn 4 you play it. Turn 5 you pump out a wolf. Not the strongest turn. Then you get a 5/5 trample. It's not terrible, but it's pretty damn slow.
Well, I mean, so I think one, if it ever enters as a 4 mana 5/5 trample edict, is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And then if it survives, you have a 2/5, which is hard to kill unless you're playing black or they have something bigger that can fight it. And then the next turn, you buy 1 wolf, you flip it to night, and you have a 5/5 and a 3/2 for 8 total mana. That's pretty good.
5/5 3/2.
Because it pumps the other wolf.
You took off turn 5 though. What did they do?
It'd be turn 5 plus. Hopefully, if you're playing wolves, you have a couple of things out before you put the pack-mate down.
Yeah, and then it's even better than the stats you said, actually.
Yeah.
Now, getting it to nighttime is what I'm worried about, as I said. It is hard to kill this 2/5. You can't just rattle off a 3 or 4 mana damage spell to kill the 2/5. It's staying there unless something happens. Actually, yeah, the front side, it's not going to get answered too easily, and it is a threat to keep putting creatures out. I guess it comes down to how easily we're flipping, which if you want to take off your turn to do a 2/2, that's actually a fine thing compared to a lot of turns.
Yeah, this is something that it sort of is able to activate the day-night by itself, because it's not going to turn it to night immediately, but you can just save your mana and use its pump, or use its ability to get something and not cast a spell, and you'll have it nighttime.
Without spoiling the whole set, how easy is it ever going to be nighttime on turn 4? I tend to not think that it's too easy. A lot of the morals of Dairybound Nightbound are like 3 drops, 4 drops. So it would not be night if you ever drop this on 4. I don't know if there's a 2-drop werewolf. They might be. That can get
the casting, I don't know in this set, but in the last one there's the red-white uncommon, or the red-green uncommon. I think though, yeah, I suspect that werewolves are going to be a little bit stronger because it seems that they kind of have more stuff to do instead of being just big creatures that die to the gajillion removal spells.
No Revenge of the Drowned though, and no Silverbolt, so maybe
no Silverbolt. Defenestrate's not in the set.
Yeah, and the 1 mana, I forget what it's called, 1 mana sack a creature, or pay 5 mana and kill a creature. It's really good against the 5 mana werewolves.
I have a sneaking suspicion that the werewolves are going to be better in this set.
It's hard to make
I don't know.
worse compared to the rest of the field because of just how the other set played out from the Esper colors. I think it's boring, but I think I might have to give this also a B minus.
I think I'm gonna give it a straight B.
Did I say B, C minus? I meant to say B minus. I don't know if I said C minus or B minus.
Yeah, you said B minus.
All right, so B minus, B. Cool. We'll move on to the next. We got Selesnya card. So this is Sigardian Paladin. It costs 4 mana, 2 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. As long as you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature this turn, Sigardian Paladin has trample and lifelink. And you can pay 3 mana for its activated ability, which is target creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. Gains trample and lifelink this turn. And of course, it doesn't say the keyword that is most important to Selesnya for this set, which is training. We're kind of having to, since we're doing the signpost on commons right now, we're kind of going through all the set mechanics here. So training is kind of the reverse of mentor, which we saw in Guilds of Ravnica. And training is if ever a creature with training attacks with a creature with higher power than it, that creature with training gets a +1/+1 counter on it. And there's like also a human sub-theme in Selesnya, just like in Midnight Hunt. And so it's humans, +1/+1 counters, and training is like kind of the catch-all. There's kind of 3 things going on with Selesnya. This card embodies them all. So what do you think of it?
So it doesn't enable itself again because you have to have other stuff with training. 4 mana 4/4, pretty, it's fine. I think it's a little bit less stronger, but a 4/4 lifelinker is no joke. So if you have attacks, this is going to be really good.
This trains well. It trains things well because it's going to be bigger than your 1, 2, and 3 attack training things. And we haven't seen many training cards, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. But if you can have a reliable thing to attack in that's not going to die, that's what training needs. Because you don't want to be doing bad attacks just to start training. That's going to be the worst thing about the training mechanic, I think. It's like, wow, I got my 1/1 counter. You don't want to lose your best creature in the dumb attack just to get a 1/1 counter. But this gives you lifelink and trample when that happens, and even allows you, because you're playing this on 4, you can leave 3 mana open to on your attack to buff a creature also on the next turn.
Yeah, that could be an important thing. I mean, these things like a trampler lifelink gets pump spells really well, and you have enough mana. This is not very expensive, so you can pump a creature, give it lifelink, all at instant speed.
It's like it's gonna be like a 6/7 lifelink swing if you're attacking with a training creature. Is it called training?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have a pump spell or something, just wow.
Yeah, I was thinking actually with this whole training mechanic, pump spells are going to be much more important, I think, because of that stupid attack mechanic that I was talking about. You got a 4/4 and a 2/2 attacking, and you're like, oh, I want the 2/2 to grow. I'm going to do this dumb attack instead of 5/5. Well, that's not a dumb attack if you have a backed up spell instant to win the attack. So I think, and for that reason, maybe the deck's going to be bad because instants and sorceries aren't. Instants aren't always what you want to fill your deck with. But I don't know. I think the Selesnya might be weak, but we'll see. I know that I have the 4,000 knowing all the cards in the set already. I've seen LR and Lords of Limited do the review. So. But
I didn't have enough time to watch the full other set reviews, so this is a little bit new. Interestingly enough, for me, it'll be all cards. I know some of them. But Blessed Defiance was a pretty good card in mid, and that gave like a turn of lifelink on a big creature, and a hit of 4 to 6 lifelink can put a big turn in the game, give you an extra 3 turns to
leave your creature behind that card for 1 mana. Strix when they're 1 mana, it's even extra value because it's hard to play around a 1 mana open. You just assume, oh, they just didn't play on card. No, they have 1 mana open because they're damage. I actually think this is probably the most. I wanted to say the most powerful of the uncommons we saw here, just because of the raw stats. 4 mana 4/4. and the ability to just swing the game with tons of lifelink. But you need the training creatures with this, I think.
Yeah, I think it probably has the highest floor, but I think it also has the highest ceiling and lowest floor maybe so far.
I'm a sucker for 4 mana 4/4 level 1. Just those stats, you just throw it down. It's hard to win. I actually want to give this a B, I think. Because I just like the stats if it does nothing else, and it's probably gonna, if you build your deck around it, it's gonna be a beater.
I'm gonna say C plus, like trending to B minus. And I think in the first few weeks of the set, we see how it depends on if training things are easy to pick up. If you can pick up training stuff, and there's some good combat tricks, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, I actually am not too. I don't think training is gonna be that great in general, but I'm just rating this card right now. We should actually say mentor, how it worked in Guilds of Ravnica. You can only mentor one thing, but if you have like 4 training creatures back with something bigger, they all get counters on them.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. In fact, because you could set up mentor like sort of chains, but it didn't. It all triggered on attack, so you couldn't.
Yeah, there was
couldn't do it.
questions when that mechanic came out. All right, so I'll give this a B, and I just said C plus. So we'll go to
And
you want to
all right,
Markov.
I'm Orzhov at heart. So a Markov Purifier is 1 white and black for a 2/3 vampire cleric at uncommon that has lifelink. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, you may pay 2 colorless mana, and if you do, draw a card.
Got a white vampire, so yeah, it's kind of a third. Well, he's not white actually, but you know what I mean. We have our third color in vampires. It's kind of a sub theme as well. I mentioned there's a couple blood tokens actually in white here. 2/3 life. And there's
2/3
4
life.
ways to gain life.
Yeah, it depends on how much life. It's at end stat, but if you gain life, this is pretty good. There's that enchantment. That was like if you gain life, you can pay 2. That's I think just at any time you can draw a card in that. That was pretty good. I forget what it was called.
Are you talking about Dawn of Hope from Guilds of Ravnica?
Dawn of Hope. Dawn of Hope.
I thought of that card earlier today because I was just thinking some cards just win you with no help. And that card seems slow when I look at it today because things have sped up I think in the last couple of years in terms of gameplay. But yeah, Dawn of Hope has a similar effect. But you can't interact with it. Like it's an enchantment. This you can't interact with.
This thing I think is pretty good. You have to have mana up to use it. And it doesn't block huge stuff, but it blocks tokens super well, and there's a lot of tokens flying around in this set, I think.
This comes down on turn 3, and they don't have a proper blocker, like nothing with 3 attack. I'm taking my turn off usually to pay 2 and draw a card, because that gets me closer to setting up a good attack after that. There's a lot of ways to gain life, though. We haven't seen it yet, but from my memory, there's a lot of ways to gain life from what we'll see in the future.
Yeah, cards like this usually just end up pretty strong. Card advantage on a creature. Repeatable card advantage.
And sending the life total in such a way that you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm down.
I like it. I think I'd give this a B minus.
I think I agree with you. B minus for Markov Purifier.
Pretty good at balancing all these signposts uncommon. I guess that might be where they start when they're balancing the colors actually, so it makes sense.
Yeah, not a lot of. So Zendikar is still in standard. There is a lot of lifelink stuff. The clerics is an archetype in Zendikar.
It's whenever you gain life. Let me take a look at this again. If you gain life,
end step.
so it's 1 time.
But there's a lot of life gain enablers in like the cleric that draws you a life when you gain a card, or
Whenever a
when
creature
you
comes
play a
in,
creature.
or itself actually. Yeah, that 1/4 along with a couple other cards in Zendikar was a deck on its own, the cleric deck, and yeah, we can open up in our league. Totally we can totally get the life gain going on from Zendikar for sure.
Yeah, if you have a bunch of these, like you randomly open a bunch of the life gain stuff, Zendikar might be the way to go. Speaking of wandering, thinking about other
I
sets,
was just gonna
Wandering
say I
Mind.
love Zendikar actually for a league because of the flip lands. If I'm just trying to get lucky, whatever, those flip lands, they go in your deck every time.
Oh yeah, the flip lands are sweet.
So Wandering Mind, you want to read that one?
Yeah, Wandering Mind, which is perfect for me. I love brains. And my mind wanders often. 1 blue and red for a 2/1 horror, which has flying. And when Wandering Mind enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Non-creature, non-land. So we're talking instant sorceries, and if you have an artifact lying around, but it's usually instant sorceries. Straight
Yeah,
up usually
enchantments.
cards.
Planeswalkers.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a lot of those hanging around. 3 mana, 2/1 flying. You want some help with that, but this gives you basically a whole extra card. That's good value. Can't say no to it.
Yeah, 6 cards. I mean, I think you're gonna hit very commonly. I mean, this is almost always 2 cards.
How upset are you if you don't hit for a 3 mana, 2/1 flyer?
Not too upset, because I don't think a 2/1 flyer is that much different from like a 2/2 flyer. There are those like 1/1s that kind of make you sad about it, but
I hate to be repetitive, but I think it's B minus 2. I would give it B if you got to see maybe another card or two, because you kind of have you don't have to work for the extra card, but you don't want to put 4 or 5 instants and sorceries in your deck and not hit with this more than often. You kind of have to. I could see it missing if you don't build it carefully.
yeah, I think if you're grabbing this and you're probably gonna be, you're probably gonna be running spells heavier. I think I'm gonna give it a B because I think it's probably gonna give you the card almost every time.
Okay, I think B minus is my rating. I will move on to the. Oh, this is my favorite Signpost uncommon. I think not like power level
What
wise
is
or
it? What
whatever.
is this thing? Is it a
It's
tree?
ancient lumber knot. It's the Bulgari 4-drop. It costs 1 black, 1 green, and 2 colorless. It's a tree folk, and it's each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. As I said, I'm a sucker for 4/4s, and this is good enough for me in those terms.
This
Plus
card
the
is
creak of its trees, and the wind is not always cause for comfort.
this card is I mean, it's that enchantment and that planeswalker on this creature. High
What does this
alert
look like
plus
for our sealed league? How many big butts are there?
there's a 113.
In
Spoiler
this
alert.
set? Yeah.
Uh,
I noticed that right away when they released that 113. I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing in this set for Bulgari.
yeah, I saw the 113. I'm like, this is a meme or there's something that's gonna enable this to be nuts.
You'll see
Um,
that the number 13 comes up a whole lot in Innistrad in general, but Crimson Vow I think has the record for the references to number 13. Of course, it had to be a 113. I'm sure it's the only creature of that size in the history of Magic.
um,
So this is basically a 4 mana 4/4 when it rumbles in combat. It buffs a bunch of other creatures, and notably, I know other set reviews said this, it doesn't shrink like some of these mechanics sometimes do. It doesn't shrink the 2/1s into 1/1s. It doesn't shrink the 3/1s into 1/1s. It only buffs the big butts.
yeah, which
And
is
online.
really cool because a lot of times to put a card like this into your deck, you are like counting to see how many cards it's going to help and how many cards it's going to hurt. And I mean, especially in green, I think the low power, high toughness cards are generally more undercosted and pretty available to grab. Like not a lot of people are throwing a lot of these in their decks. So I think you'll be able to really pile in a lot, say in a draft situation.
There's a lot of incidental green and black cards in this set. We'll see that make this card better. Of course, you need this card for those cards to. You need this card on the field, not only drafted, to make those cards maybe up to par with other creatures, though. So, but at the worst, this is a 4-mana 4/4. At the best, it busts other creatures. I kind of like it. There's no new mechanic on this. It's just kind of a math thing. It's going to be much easier in MTGA here than in paper. It's going to hold your hand with the power and toughness thing. What do you think the grade is for this?
I think I'm gonna give this a B minus. They're very equal. I think so far. This thing can be super awesome. Its floor is really good.
I was thinking B minus C plus too. It's too often just a 4-mana 4/4. That's my worry. That's my only worry. Actually, I think I have to give it C plus, even though I like it, because if it's buffing your whole, you kind of got to build around it, or it's not more than a 4-mana 4/4. Like a lot of creatures.
I kind of like that because, like, what if it's your top deck? You play a 4-mana 4/4. That's good. Doesn't, but not great.
A lot of creatures are 2/2s, 3/3s, and this does nothing for them. But yeah, I mean, I'll say C plus.
I think C plus is going to be where this one's at.
I mean, Selesnya one for one, gave the highest grade. It's just a 4-mana 4/4 a lot too. But it's got such a high upside. You want to read our? Oh, this card was the only I read on the wiki. This is the only multicolored vampire that does not have black in its Cassico. You want to read it?
This is the only non-black vampire
that's multicolored.
Whoa!
That's what
I didn't realize there were no red Boros vampires.
That's what the wiki said. I'll lead.
That's cool.
Oh, you read.
Oh yeah, Markov Waltzer is 2 red and white for a 1/3 flying hazed vampire at uncommon, which has at the beginning of comment on your turn up to 2 target creatures you control, each get +1/+0 until the end of turn. And it says I'll lead. He's dancing and flying.
Combat Professor. And then we had the Singer, the Tiefling Singer in AFR. Then we had the rare Wolf from last set, and this is the new version that gives buffs to other creatures or itself. I know it's other creatures.
And itself. Yeah, so it can just come down as a 2/3 haste flyer.
It has to distribute though. It can't give 2 O's itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it can get one. It can, which is kind of fun. I guess that's the wedding flavor. It's like 2 target creatures. He's like,
oh yeah.
Oh, that's the joke. You can dance.
There's a couple of cards that care about 2 attacking creatures. Is that like a theme in Boros? I thought it was just aggressive.
I don't know, but yeah, I think it's like you need, but it's like you get 2 target creatures, so it's like they're dancing at the wedding.
I didn't realize that theme for this card, but it's true. What do we think about the power level? It feels like a rare. It just feels rare.
This feels strong.
Yeah.
This feels like something that comes down and you're just like.
It's a 4-mana 2/3 at worst if it's the only creature on the board, but it's flying and haste.
Yeah, it's just being able to choose what creatures you pump each turn is really strong. I mean, Combat Professor for 4 mana was really good.
No vigilance, but you got the extra.
No vigilance.
You got the flexibility here with giving the 1/0 to whoever you want. I don't mind this being like near the top of my curve. Just have a play 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, or maybe a couple 2-drops, and it just comes down and just buffs a couple things. You're fine. Don't play too many 5 or 6 drops in your aggro decks anyway. Just to be near the top of your curve and be happy about it.
Yeah, this works super well if you can get any kind of like tokens in the air, 1/1 spirits or whatever.
Oh yeah.
This thing starts pumping 3 flyers, attacks itself.
I think it's gonna be strong in the deck that wants it, and so I think it's probably B.
I agree. I think it's a B.
Walter. And this is our last signpost on common card. Is there a new,
Nice.
no mechanic to explain here? On Vile Spawn Spider, it's a Simic card, 1 green, 1 blue. It's a spider, that's a 2/3. It has reach. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card, that's pretty easy to follow. And then it has an activated ability, so 1 green, 1 blue, and 2 colorless. Tap it and sack it. It gives you a 1/1 green insect creature token for each creature in your graveyard. Activate only as a sorcery. They make cards so much unfun when they only make it sorcery activation. I love doing stuff when my opponent didn't realize at instant speed. So many
Yeah,
things are sorcery, but it's
it's a
harder to
big
play.
trap too. How many games? I think I've lost so many games because I thought something was a instant activation, and then I read it again or forgot.
I wonder in
Trying
Paper
for the
Magic
max.
when you and your opponent both forget, you get to get a free sort. If your opponent doesn't realize it's also a sorcery, you still get to do it if you're in Paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't let you do it in the MTGA, and it feels bad. What do we think about this card? It fuels itself.
Fueled itself. Fuels your deck. I think green blue wants to do that. Green blue and mid wants to do that too. So it's very synergistic with Midnight Hunt.
Oh yeah, they wanted to mill it because of the flashback. True, I didn't think of that. So for our league, if you're opening up Midnight Hunt and this, you're gonna have some synergy. We'll see how much other mill is in green blue, but I remember there being quite a bit, and yeah, because of the flashback, you're gonna get extra value.
It's a 2/3 reach for 2. That's pretty good.
And if ever it's irrelevant, you get a bunch of insects to crowd the board.
Yeah, I mean, I would take a 2/3 reach for green and a blue at probably a C+, right?
Yeah, sounds right. I think this. We'll put this at B minus probably.
I think I think B minus.
That's how much value you get out of the mill, because you can mill those disturb cards and get enchant creatures out of them too. Depends how much use you can make out of the mill, I think.
Yeah. Hey, how many? Like a turn 4, you could sacrifice and make 2 insects, maybe 3.
I'm not
Like a
looking to do that if I have other plays on turn 4. It actually
yeah,
doesn't exile. I somehow thought this exile doesn't exile them. So if you have a disturbed creature on the board, it turns into an insect even though it's castable. Sorry, if you have it in the graveyard, it turns into an insect even though you can still cast it as an enchantment afterwards.
yeah. You can still cast it as an enchantment afterwards. It's a really good late game play because if you're like at the top, the last few cards in your deck, you can always sacrifice it to go nuts.
Flooding the ground with 1/1 is better if you've got those mass pump spells. I don't think that exists. Not a spell, not an instant that does that anyway that I can think of in the set.
Yeah, there's some like fringe. You can meet Hook Massacre yourself and ping them to death.
Wow. And I did draft that card once. I did play it. What do we think about
Yeah, that was my. I tried to do that with my mid sealed pack. I was trying to set up the Strixhaven pest meat hook massacre and open no pests, but
yeah, black does have a lot of sacrificable stuff in general usually. I think this card's a B minus. Depending on
agreed.
how you could use it. I wanted to say C plus, but you can probably use it to big advantage if you're building the deck right.
Agreed.